Today's story is one of spiritual conviction amid colonial conquest, cultural conflict, and personal courage. It's about two remarkable missionaries, Althea and Alonzo Edmiston, serving deep in the Congo Free State in 1904. But to understand what happened on the night of November 2nd of that year, we must begin decades earlier with the name you've heard before, David Livingstone. I'm Laura Siemens, and this is a Church History Podcast. Welcome to the Church History Podcast. I'm your host, Laura Lee. Today we're continuing our series, The Church at War. While our episodes are not planned based on current events, they often align with them, and this week is one such instance. Stay tuned until the end of the episode for discussion on last week's events and how it relates to today's story. First, let's begin with today's story. In 1873, David Livingstone died in Central Africa. His final breath was taken near Lake Bangweolo in what is now Zimbabwe. Though his body was returned to Britain and buried in Westminster Abbey, his heart, both literally and symbolically, remained in Africa, buried by his friends under a tree. It became a powerful symbol of his love for the continent. I produced 2 episodes focusing on the life of David Livingstone, and those will be available in the links in the show notes. Livingstone had walked through jungles and across rivers with a Bible in one hand and a compass in the other. He preached the gospel, recorded maps, and exposed the horrors of the Arab Swahili slave trade. But perhaps the greatest legacy he left behind wasn't just in the words he spoke or the lands he crossed. It was in the generation of black and white missionaries who followed in his footsteps. By the turn of the 20th century, the Congo was no longer the dark heart of Africa that explorers had seen. It had become the personal colony of one man, King Leopold II of Belgium. In theory, the Congo Free State was a humanitarian project, but in practice, it was a system of forced labor, mutilation, and exploitation, all fueled by the booming demand for rubber in Europe and North America. The missionaries who arrived in the Congo didn't come to get rich. They came to preach the gospel, build schools, offer medicine, and live among the people. But in doing so, they found themselves in a land riddled with tension. And that's the world young Althea Brown walked into in 1902. By 1904, the reality of the Congo Free State had reached a boiling point. Villages were killed for failing to meet rubber quotas. Men were mutilated. Women and children held hostage to force compliance. The system was run by the Force Publique, Leopold's brutal private militia, and enforced with the help of local enforcers, including the infamous Zappo-Zapes. Meanwhile, missionaries like William Shepherd, an African-American pioneer of the American Presbyterian Congo Mission, had begun to speak out. Shepherd had documented the horrors he saw: severed hands, scorched earth, and Christian converts slaughtered for resisting. At the same time, rebellions were growing. One local leader, King Lukanga, had risen in defiance of the colonial rule. His target wasn't just Leopold's agent. It was anyone he believed was complicit in foreign domination. That included traders, enforcers, and Christian missionaries. And this is where our story pauses, with tension simmering and Aletha Brown just 2 years into her calling in the Congo. But first, let's look at the childhood of Aletha and Alonzo. Aletha Brown was born in Alabama in 1874 to parents who had been slaves. Raised on a Mississippi farm, she worked as a nurse before attending Fisk University, one of the premier institutions for African Americans. At Fisk, Aletha was known not just for her academic brilliance, but for her determination. She paid her way through school by making and selling fudge. Across the country was a young man Aletha would meet later in life. His name was Alonzo Edmiston. He was also preparing for a life of service. Born in the post-Reconstruction South, he attended Stillman Institute, where he studied agriculture, theology, and medicine. He was inspired by shepherds' courage, and he set his sights on the Congo. By the early 1900s, both Aletha and Alonzo had been commissioned by the Southern Presbyterian Church. They were part of a growing wave of Black missionaries, young, educated, and determined to make a difference. In 1902, Aletha Brown set foot on the Congo for the first time, arriving alone as a young missionary African woman, determined to serve God in one of the most challenging mission fields in the world. She joined the Ibanche mission station, which was led by the pioneer missionary William Shepherd. Surrounded by dense jungle and unfamiliar customs, Aletha began her work teaching, nursing, and supporting the mission's efforts to share the gospel and offer practical education. Despite the isolation, language barriers, and the ever-present dangers of colonial unrest, she quickly became a beloved and vital part of the mission community. Her arrival marked the beginning of decades-long ministry that would impact countless lives and stand as a powerful testimony of faith, courage, and cultural resistance. November 2nd, 1904. The Ibache mission station in the Karsi region was more than a place of worship. It was a school, a clinic, a haven. But on the evening of November 2nd, 1904, it became something else, a target. Word arrived that Christian villages nearby were burning. A runner arrived, holding a branch dripped with blood. The blood of Christians, he said, killed by rebel arrows. The message was clear. King Lukanga's warriors were on the move. He commanded that his men bring him the hearts of traitors, the heads of missionaries, and to burn every white person's dwelling. Althea Brown wrote, "None of us expected to see the rising of another sun. Every breath we took was a prayer for deliverance or a fitness to stand before the King, our God." As darkness blanketed the mission, the missionaries huddled together. Praise God from whom all blessings flow. They sang the doxology. As gunfire rang in the distance, the ground shook, children cried. The night passed slowly, but they survived. By dawn, the violence had eased, but then a second night followed. Again, full of fear, prayer, and hope. Finally, on the third day, a group of Congolese soldiers arrived. They were fearful, under-resourced, and unsure, but they came. 500 missionaries, women, and children were gathered for evacuation. Althea remembered the march vividly. Small children, no older than 5, carrying burdens, the fear of ambush, the command to march at full speed. But they made it. It was during the difficult days that followed the rebellion that Althea Brown met Alonzo Edmiston. Alonzo had recently arrived in the Congo, full of determination and equipped with training in theology, medicine, and agriculture. Their shared calling, deep faith, and resilience in the face of hardship drew them together. Through long days of rebuilding and ministry in the shadows of the trauma, their friendship deepened into love. It was 1 year after that attack that Aletha Brown married Alonzo Edmiston on July 8, 1905. Althea sewed her wedding dress by hand. Her belongings, including her clothing, had all been destroyed in the rebellion. Together, this couple launched one of the most impactful missionary careers of the 20th century. They moved to Balape and later Mutoto, where they built schools, clinics, and churches. Alonzo taught agriculture, carpentry, and theology. Althea taught literacy, led the girls' school, and without any formal training, compiled a grammar and dictionary of the Bushong language. It took 12 years before it was finally published. They faced sleeping sickness, malaria, and even racism from their church leaders back home. But they never gave up. They survived rebellion, disease, and cultural hostility with grace, prayer, and persistence. Their work connected African American education in the South with African missions, becoming a model of Pan-African solidarity long before civil rights movement would pick up the torch. The events of November 2nd, 1904 were not just a footnote in missionary history. They are a vivid reminder that the church has always had to choose between comfort and conviction. In the Congo, the conviction was put to the test literally, and people like Althea and Edmiston emerged not only as survivors, but as spiritual pioneers. Their story challenges us to pray with faith, act with courage, and to love with endurance. The legacy of David Livingstone echoed through their footsteps. The suffering in the Congo still cries out today, and the church, at war and peace, continues to write its story in the hearts of those who dare to go to this area. Today, the church is still in the Congo, and the Congo is still a very difficult place for Christians. In 1994, in the neighboring country of Rwanda, the Hutu, who were the majority group, attacked the minority group, the Tutsi. For 100 days, the Hutu went door to door, finding any member of the Tutsi and butchering them. By the end of the 100 days, between 800,000 and 1 million Tutsi had been murdered. Millions of the Tutsi fled to the Congo to escape. The Congo and Rwanda have been at war since that time. Rwanda has armed M23 rebels who attack and kill civilians in the Congo. And of course, there is a fight for mineral resources. Over the last 30 years, the church in the Congo and the church in the Rwanda have continued to experience growth. Churches hold meetings with members with both Tutsi and Hutu. Pastors who are members of the Hutu love and serve the congregation, which include the Tutsi. In the Congo, pastors have had their houses bombed, and the government have made things hard for these pastors. But this week, something happened. The leaders of the Congo and Rwanda met with the president in the White House. They signed a treaty that will withdraw Rwanda troops. Both countries will disengage and disarm all armed groups, and displaced families will be able to return to their homes. One group working in this area of Africa is the Global Baptist Training Foundation. It's led by Bruce and Grace Snavely, who are close friends of mine. While working as college professors, Dr. Bruce and Grace Snavely identified a need to train and equip national pastors and church leaders in theology and practical church ministry at no cost to them. Responding to this need, the Snaveleys founded the Global Baptist Training Foundation in 2012. Since nationals already know the language, already understand their culture, and have strong connections with the community, this method has proven highly effective. National pastors have established hundreds of new churches across Africa, Myanmar, Mexico, and Haiti, and have reached thousands of new members within these regions. In May of just this year, 155 pastors and church leaders finished a class in Rwanda. That's 155 more pastors ready to serve in this area. In 2024, last year, 1,100 churches were planted by church leaders trained by the Global Baptist Training Foundation. If you want to learn more about the work in Africa or how you can support it, please check out our show notes. I have a link for you there. On their Facebook page, you can see the pictures of the families in the Congo who have been affected by the war. Next week, we're going to continue our series, The Church at War. We're going to step into one of the most devastating conflicts in modern history, World War I. Over the next 8 weeks, we'll be sharing powerful stories from the war, stories of faith, sacrifice, courage, and how the church responded during one of humanity's darkest chapters. In our next episode, we're going to be exploring the rising tensions that led to the outbreak of the war, political alliances, nationalism, and the spiritual climate of Europe on the eve of the global conflict. You don't want to miss it. Thank you for joining me. Until next time, I'm Laura Lee Siemens, and this is a Church History Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to subscribe on YouTube or your favorite podcast app so you don't miss an episode. We release new content every Monday. And don't forget to check out our website at lauraleesiemens.com for more information and additional resources. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week as we continue our journey through the incredible history of the church.